Let's go Hitmen. That's what we say when we back our WHL junior hockey team. And this is my first segment of my Calgary Hitmen in 6. So anyway, just my full disclaimer here first is that I casually follow the Calgary Hitmen. I follow the Calgary Flames a lot more intensely, as just the nature of the beast that you got professional hockey in Calgary and you get more coverage of the Flames, and you know they're the primary owners for all Calgary sports in Calgary. They actually bought the Calgary Hitmen back in 1997, but the Calgary Hitmen, all part of the Western Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League Network, is definitely still a good feeder for future NHL stars. So anyway, I'll start recapping my first Calgary Hitmen segment with their preseason here. And they played 6 games in the preseason here, and I'll grab my notes here as they played 6 games all over Alberta and over 6 games for to expose the product, because there are a lot of neutral site games that occurred during the 2 weeks that's during the preseason here. So the first game, or I should say, I should recap that last season. The Calgary Hitmen had a rough season. They were 20th out of 22nd in the Western Hockey League, and they only had 24 wins, 37 losses, 9 overtime, and 2 shootout losses for 59 points, and didn't make the playoffs. But I figure, it's the nature of junior hockey. You only get a core of guys for a couple of years before they move on to professional or Europe, if that's their option, if they want to continue playing hockey professionally. But these are guys from 16 to 20 years old, remember, and the Hitmen had a couple of strong seasons there when they had a core to build around and rode with them. They won a couple WHL titles in 1999 and 2010, so it's just the nature of the beast. You can't really sign, you do draft players from Bantam, but it's not like signing free agents. You could make trades to load up, or some cases maybe trade a player to a team that's close by that has an NHL team, so you can watch that player. That's what the Flames have done in the past on a few occasions. But anyway, let's start with the 6 games that they played in the preseason under new head coach Steve Hamilton, which I made a little quick video on that, and looking at his pedigree and his resume here, he definitely had a winning track record with the Edmonton Oil Kings up the road. So let's see if he can transfer that here in Calgary. And so far in the preseason, you could say he has, but it's only preseason. So the first game they played Friday, August the 31st, and it was against the Kootenay Ice, where they were considered the Calgary Hitmen were considered the road team, but that game was played at the MX Centrium up in Red Deer. That is 3 p.m. puck drop. These guys also go to school as well. But the Calgary Hitmen won their first preseason game by a score of 4-1. And I just made a note here that they scored 4 straight goals in the first preseason game. So they started the preseason at 1-0. So then they played the next day against the Red Deer Rebels at the MX Centrium. This time the Calgary Hitmen was considered the road team, and they actually won that game 3-2 in overtime. So over the Labor Day weekend, they started the preseason 2-0. So the third preseason game, they played the Edmonton Oil Kings. The Hitmen were considered the road team, and actually this game was played at the downtown community arena, not the nice building, the Rogers Place, I think it's called. That's up in Edmonton. But this was a high-scoring game that the Calgary Hitmen won 6-5 in overtime. So and that puck drop for both the game in Red Deer and Edmonton was at 7 o'clock local time or mountain time. So any times I throw out all my recaps will be at mountain time here in Calgary. So they won Game 3 of the preseason, 6-5 in overtime. And then the next day, this game was played in the Carstairs Arena in Carstairs, which is just north of Calgary. And I understand that game, was raised for Stars Air Ambulance, where they raised over $11,000 for a worthy charity through ticket sales, and any 50-50, I believe. So that game, the Calgary Hitmen was considered the home team, and they once again beat the Edmonton Oil Kings 6-2. And I understand that game there was the Belle of Alberta definitely lived up to its name. That there was a lot of fisticuffs and that occurred. But the one thing to note here is that the Calgary Hitmen, while they were 20th in the league last year, they were ahead of the Edmonton Oil Kings, who happened to finish 22nd best in the WHL with 22 teams in the league. So so far, that's some bragging rights right there. So that was the fourth game to go 4-0 in preseason. In Game 5, they played this game at the Eddie Mountain Memorial Arena in Ivermere, which is just south of Radium Hot Springs, near Kootenay National Park. That's definitely a getaway for a lot of locals to, if they want to go somewhere else other than Banff and just get away from the crowds at Radium. But they took on the Kootenay Ice, who, by the way, is based out of Cranbrook. And the Calgary Hitmen won that game 5-4 in overtime to go 5-0 in the preseason. And then they wrapped up the preseason schedule last Saturday. Actually, this was the first game they played in their true home at the Scotiabank Saddledome. And they beat the Kootenay Ice, who they played again, 3-2. And the puck drop was also at 7 p.m. So Calgary Hitmen went a perfect 6-0 in preseason, which is definitely doesn't hurt to get good winning vibe going. So now I will pull out my smartphone here, because I meant to record this video a couple days ago, but during the week, but just didn't have time. I made my notes here, but it also kind of worked out nicely this way, because the Calgary Hitmen do start their season tonight, which I'll get to the first 6 games in the regular season here. But they released their opening weekend roster here, and looking on the Calgary Hitmen app, which I have an Android, which is on Google or Apple iOS, or the website is hitmenhockey.com if you want any more information on the Calgary Hitmen. But they broke it down based on birth year. And I understand over the years of following junior hockey, that you can have 5 20-year-old players on your roster at one time, and sometimes teams like to wait till closer to the trade deadline to load up for a potential championship run. But right now, Calgary only has 2 players on their opening day roster who were born in 1998, which makes them 20 years old. And the 2 guys that were on the roster is left winger Luke Coleman and center Jake Risky. So that's the 2 guys that were born in the 2 20-year-olds. So they bring in 5 guys who were born in 1999, who would be 19 years old or turning 19 here in 2018. So the first guy that they are named to the roster is goaltender Matthew Armitage. And actually this guy got anointed a captain, Mark Kolesnik, who's a center, who was named the captain of the Calgary Hitmen this year, and he actually led the team in preseason scoring by scoring 9 points in 6 games. And then on the fence, they named Dakota Krebs and Dom Shillman, who's also a defenseman. And then the last guy that for 1999 is Vladislav Yeremenko, defenseman. So those are the 5 guys that they named on the roster who were born in 1999. Year 2000, that's exactly half my age, so it's definitely sign of the times here. They have 8 guys born in 2000 who are 18 or turning 18 this year, starting with center Carson Folk, right winger Zach Huber, center Tristan Nelson, or Nielsen, and then goalie Karl Stankowski, center Riley Stotts, defenseman Lane Tudor, right winger Orca Weisblatt, and lastly defenseman Igor Zamula. So those are the guys that were born in 2000 that were named to the roster. 2001 born, guys who are 17 or turning 17. They have 7 guys on the roster, starting with Bryce Batter, the left winger, right winger Hunter Campbell, center Ty Carrier, defenseman Devin Klassen, goalie Jake McNaughton, defenseman Jackson Van de Leest, and then lastly left winger Cale Zimmerman. Sorry if I butcher these names, or I think sometimes you read that first time and it turns out differently when you actually look at it. So those are the 17-year-olds born in 2001. And in 2002, rounding out the roster, 3 guys that were named these guys are 16 years old. And starting with Riley Fitter Schultz, left winger, center Ryder Korzak, and lastly defenseman Luke Prokop. So that's your Calgary Hitmen that will start their 24th season in the WHL. And I said it's 25 players with on the roster, making up 14 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 3 goalies. And 17 of the 25 players were on the Calgary Hitmen last season. So we'll see if any youth or any new players coming in. I mean, the new head coach is definitely the big storyline on who they brought in Steve Hamilton. So we'll see if Calgary can climb up the standings this year and get back into the playoffs. They use the same format as they do in the NHL. I mean, there's 4 divisions in the WHL. The Calgary Hitmen are in the Central Division, but how they do it is they got an Eastern and Western Conference. The top 3 teams in each division get, spots, and then the next 2 wild card, and then you get the 8 seeds in each conference, and they battle each other up for the WHL title, and then whoever wins the WHL title gets to go on to play Memorial Cup, where you have the host, the WHL champion, Terry Hockey League champion, the QMGL champion, which is definitely an exciting tournament, and definitely is just as hard, or sometimes even harder, to win a Memorial Cup than a Stanley Cup, when you think about all the teams involved and the playoff procedure that they have to get to the Memorial Cup. So it's impressive when you look at some teams that have won back-to-back Memorial Cups. See the Kamloops Blazers, for example, in 1994-95, when I actually had the opportunity, when I was at Kamloops this past spring holiday, I was able to walk through the office at the Canada's Blazers and walk through the rink and reminisce of all the players. I mean, there were definitely some flame greats, including this guy, Jerome McGinley, who played for the Blazers. But that gives you an idea of some superstars that have played in the WHL. So anyway, get back to the Calgary Hitmen today. Here's their opening first 6 games of the regular season schedule, which I'll do my next video segment when they complete these 6 games. But today, which I'm actually recording this, they start their regular season in Cranbrook. So Saturday, September the 22nd, they're in Cranbrook to take on the Kootenay Ice with a 7 p.m. puck drop. And then next Friday, September the 28th, they'll be in Red Deer taking on the Red Deer Rebels with a 7 p.m. puck drop. And then the next 4 games will be I'll consider this my first 6-game segment in the regular season, will be part of the 4 out of 6 game homestand that the Calgary Hitmen will have early in the season. So on Saturday, September the 29th, which is the home opener for the Calgary Hitmen, they'll be taking on the Edmonton Oil Kings with a 7 p.m. puck drop. And then on Sunday, September 30th, they'll be taking on the Red Deer Rebels with a 4 p.m. puck drop. Both of them here in Calgary, as I mentioned. first 4 games of a 6-game homestand. And then on Friday, October the 5th, they'll be taking on the Saskatoon Blades, 7 p.m. here in Calgary. And then to wrap up the first 6 games, which this is where I'll cut off when I'll do my next recap video. On Monday, October the 8th, keep in mind that this is Canadian Thanksgiving, which is a holiday. They'll be taking on the Prince Albert Raiders with a 2 p.m. puck drop. So that's the Calgary Hitmen in 6. This is my first hockey segment, both covering the preseason, the opening day roster, and looking ahead to the next 6 games to start off the 2018-2019 WHL season. So as I mentioned, I do casually follow the Hitmen, like not as intensely as the Calgary Flames, but I think, covering Calgary sports and me doing this project, which is a hobby at this point, will make me follow them much more, and I plan to maybe catch the odd game here and there. I mean, with a given schedule and how many games there are, it's pretty hard to follow the whole season, go to every game, but it's hockey, and we as Canadians, we love our hockey. So anyway, if you enjoy everything that you see on my channel, sports takes, recap videos, I mean, I do this similar with my Calgary Stampeders this month, but the nature of the beast there is that they play weekly, so I recap that monthly. I'll do the same thing for the Calgary Roughnecks when lacrosse season starts in December, and then my plan is when the Calgary Flames finish their preseason schedule, I'll do my first recap video, and then I'll break down, do Flames recaps every 6 games, which works out to be probably every couple weeks when I get around to doing my notes and jump in front of the camera and talk to your world and do all the editing and producing. So if you enjoy everything you see, make sure you subscribe and hit like, and I'll see you at the next video.